So, one question that I'm sure a lot of people are asking when it comes to this TNA WWE NXT collaboration, this crossover partnership, is how does it benefit TNA? What does TNA get, in the long run from this? Because I was watching what JD from NY206 had to say in his off the script extra that he did on Thursday. And, he does bring up a good point. Despite all the positive changes we see on WWE television creatively and bookingly, that, at the end of the day, business wise, they can still be, if not are, still the same WWE. That they will do whatever it takes to stick it to the competition. And when it comes to someone like, let's say, Tony Khan, well, let's just say the more they stick it to him, the more it sends a message that, yeah, despite how much you try or how much better you might get, you're still never going to be on our level. And, it makes you wonder, if maybe WWE is planning to do that to TNA. Right now, the partnership between both sides is very beneficial, mostly for NXT and TNA, because you're getting some interpromotional matchups you may not get, potentially for quite some time. For someone like Jordan Grace, who has restructured her contract to expire at the beginning of 2025 instead of the summer, it gives her pretty much a taste of what she'll deal with within NXT when she goes there full time, if not on the main roster, if she decides to basically go there right off the bat. And the same with people like Tatum Paxton and on like last night's broadcast of TNA, Izzy Dame. It gives them an opportunity to compete against somebody that eventually they'll be facing in the ring, in WWE, whether it's in NXT or Raw or SmackDown. But, despite that, you also have other, collaborations happening. You have TNA wrestlers teaming up with NXT wrestlers, like what we saw with Joe Henry and Trick Williams on Tuesday. You're seeing the reuniting of stables that basically are, split apart because of, certain participants being in different companies, like what we saw with the Rascals, MSK reuniting on NXT this past Tuesday, and thus we're going to get them teaming up again as this trio this Tuesday against Gallus, and then next week, against basically the no quarter catch club. So basically, you're going to have somewhat of an NXT match, on TNA Wrestling, but the only NXT people on there will be the no quarter catch club and Wes Lee, while the others are TNA stars and Trey Miguel and Zachary Wentz. Now, you look at all that and you say, well, this is a perfect collaboration. Everybody's getting an opportunity to shine. People are getting a chance to compete for other companies' championships. What could go wrong? And that's a good question to ask and ponder. But I think what what he said in his video, is based on what happened with Stephanie Vaquer, because more reports came out that Stephanie Vaquer went about her exit from CMLL and New Japan in a way that basically, if you believe the reports, caused her to burn some bridges between both companies, because she was scheduled to be part of a CMLL event, in San Jose with New Japan, I'm assuming, and she was supposed to be defending the World Championship, the CMLL Women's World Championship, against somebody. I don't know if it was going to be Mercedes or somebody else. So you have to wonder exactly what truly happened there. Again, reports are she decided to conduct business in an unprofessional way, upon her exit. But then again, you got the other reports going around of, it has to do with her ex-boyfriend that she was dating that tried to, kill her and all that, he might be getting out and, and all these different, I guess you could say, scenarios that, again, the truth is in the middle. The truth, honestly, is in the middle as to what really happened. But again, he looks at these reports and how, if in a way that might be true to an extent, how that kind of shows that despite the positive change, booking and creatively WWE has been going through over the past year, that business-wise, behind the scenes, they're still the same WWE, that they will do whatever it takes to stick it to those they feel are beneath them, like, let's say, a Tony Khan or a CMLL or a New Japan or whatever, And that brings up the question of how does this crossover with TNA benefit them? Because one thing he pointed out is that WWE through this is basically keeping the eye contractually on the likes of a Jordan Grace, knowing she's going to be out sooner than expected from her contract with TNA, as well as keeping an eye on the contracts status of a Joe Henry, a Frankie Kazarian, a tree, 2/3 of the Rascals, outside of the 1/3 that they have under contract, and so on. So, you have to wonder if maybe he's got a point that if WWE is just, using TNA, in this partnership to get what they want and not give nothing in return. But here's what's crazy though. They are getting something in return. And even he did acknowledge that TNA would get some back, some, I guess you could say, some kickback, if you will. That's the word I'm looking for, some kickback with this partnership, even if it does end suddenly. Like they're going to get something in return. And one has to also realize, too, that as I've said in a previous video, audio video, I believe, or on-screen video, that I uploaded and set to premiere about a week ago or so, due to the fact that my mom is off and, it's her summer break and I'm doing what I can to give you content when I can, um, basically, what was I saying? Oh yeah, they're going to get some kickback and everything, down the line. That you have to wonder. Uh, okay, I just lost my train of thought there. I do apologize. Hold on. Sorry about that. I lost my train of thought. I have my security camera on right now that looks into the living room, so I'm able to see, my mom. She's asleep right now on the couch. Like I said, I'm trying to do these kind of things when the opportunity presents itself because of her being on break. If you live with your family, your parents, or anything like that, you kind of know how hard that is. But like I was saying, basically, I mentioned this in the video that I set to premiere last week, which did premiere last week. I asked the question if this partnership was better than what was going on with AEW, and obviously it is, because again, you're getting equality here. You're getting basically, something that's, not one-sided. Like AEW's partnership with them was one-sided. It was mostly about Kenny Omega being the belt collector and all that and da. And you didn't really get anything in return. You didn't get any, any wrestlers from TNA Impact crossing over to AEW and competing, with the exception of the Good Brothers, that being Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. You didn't get anything outside of that. The only exception was Moose, but that was because, the storyline had him go over to Daly's place and, challenge for the championship against Kenny Omega, the Impact World Championship, TNA World Championship, if you will. So outside of him, outside of the Good Brothers, and I think even the Motor City Machine Guns, you didn't really get many talents crossing over, from TNA and having equal opportunity to compete and even win some matches. It was always AEW. It was always, AEW, on top of everything. And TNA Impact Wrestling just used as a patsy. Well, in this case, it's more equal. It's more like, hey, we're going to give your guys talent, and in exchange, you're going to give our guys and gals some talent, some exposure. Because that's what this partnership does as well with TNA, is it gives the NXT talent, more opportunities to compete, in the ring, be able to, be what they want, basically be able to, I should say, show off what they can do in that ring, no matter where they are. So that to me is the benefit of this partnership, and why it's a lot better, between WWE and TNA, and why it's a lot better for WWE to partner with other promotions like Pro Wrestling Noah, potentially AAA in Mexico, and maybe even some of the UK markets. It's better because of the fact that, it's giving everybody equal opportunity to compete, in the ring and show what they can do and let loose a little bit. It's a win-win situation, period. It's a win-win situation. But again, I get what, I get what, JD is talking about. I get what he's talking about when he says, but not says, but when he brings up the fact that, this could be a circumstance where WWE in the end really doesn't care about TNA at all, and all they care about is what they get. All they care about is what it brings to them, even though TNA might get some kickback in the long run. But, you know, but we'll have to see if maybe JD might be right in that. Right now, I'm more confident that I don't think TNA would be in that kind of a circumstance. I think TNA does understand that right now they're still in a rebuilding process. They're still in a rebuilding process, and they need all the help they can get. Let's not forget ECW. When it became Extreme Championship Wrestling in '94, it took a couple of years before it really started to take off and become what it is. And the way it was able to take off and become what it is was thanks to a partnership with WWE, WWF. And this was at a time where Vince McMahon, in my opinion, still had all of his marbles and understood the beneficiariness of partnering with other promotions, even if those promotions were smaller than you and really didn't, I guess you could say, pose any threat. So to me, I kind of look at this partnership with TNA and I see something similar to where, just like ECW had that partnership in 97, 96, 97, and even before that, 95, a little bit with WWE, and how that helped them become, what they were after Barely Legal in 97. To me, it's very similar to that kind of a partnership, to where you're seeing, TNA still rebuilding, themselves, back to what they used to be. And they realize that the best way for them to do that is to, partner with WWE. And WWE, under this new administration, is acknowledging that this is a benefit for all of them. It's a benefit for the talents that WWE eventually will want to bring in, like the Rascals and Grace and Joe Hendry and Moose and Edwards and all them. And it's also a great opportunity for a lot of the up-and-coming NXT talent that they have, like a faction like the No Quarter Catch Club, like Izzy Dame, like Tatum Paxley, and so on, to get their feet wet, when it comes to the wrestling business, and show what they can do, not just within the confines of the WWE wing and the PC, but also outside of it in other places like TNA and All Japan Pro Wrestling and Pro Wrestling Noah and so on. So to me, I look at the partnership between these two as, not just a win-win for both sides, when it comes to TNA and NXT, but I also look at it as being very familiar, very similar to the ECW thing, to where WWE, like they helped with ECW back then, is helping TNA kind of rebuild themselves, and to become who they once were, so that way they don't have to depend on them any longer. And in exchange, WWE eventually and rightfully, when the time is right, is able to gain and sign, some new talent to the company, right, in the rightful way once the contracts are up. Like I said, talent like Jordan Grace, Moose, Eddie Edwards, Alicia Edwards, talent like, Josh Alexander, the Rascals, and so on. Rosemary. I mean, you can't tell me Rosemary wouldn't be a good fit for something like, the Wyatt Six. I mean, goodness sakes. But again, it's a win-win for everybody. TNA, they get more exposure. They're on Access TV. Not many people get that. That's why you also have them now being broadcast on their TNA TNA Plus streaming service, which is also, distributed by Endeavor. So there's that connection there. So, it gives them more exposure, for people to want to, subscribe to that service, or maybe find out if they can get Access TV. It gives them that more exposure, it gives their talent more exposure. In his thing, it gives exposure to those that used to be part of WWE that are now part of TNA, and it makes people tune into TNA and see, oh, wait a minute, isn't that Dana Brooke? Oh, she's going by the name Ash by Elegance? Oh, this is where she went. Or, hey, isn't that Dolph Ziggler? Oh, he's going by his real name now, Nick Nemeth? It gives them, a chance to see these talents again, but in an all new light. In a light that basically, allows them to be themselves, allows them to be more than what, they were originally. So to me, honestly, this partnership is a lot better than this partnership impact TNA has with WWE is a lot better, 100 times better than what they had with AEW. But in the long run, is it mainly going to be a partnership that benefits them, if once it's all said and done? And I think it will, because it allows them also to bring in talent, whether it's unknown talent, whether it's established talent, to kind of rebuild that roster and fill those spots that they know eventually are going to be emptied once the talents that I've mentioned might get signed with WWE. So to me, this is a win-win all the way around, and it's being done the way it should have been done between AEW and TNA. And the reason I say that is because AEW, they would still be partnering with TNA. There would be no WWE TNA partnership if AEW would have done it the same way, but they didn't. It was all about establishing them as better than TNA, as the place you want to be and everything. And they just used them, as I said earlier, as a patsy, and TNA has not gone over that. They haven't. But to me, it does benefit them. It does benefit them. Now, do I see this partnership lasting for, forever? No. Every good, a lot of good things have to come to an end. But like I said, I think it's something that's going to help in the long run. It's going to help booster both companies. It's going to help them get better. And again, it reminds me of when ECW got helped by WWE back in the 90s. That's what it reminds me of, because once, when that partnership was going on, and then ECW, after Barry Legal was able to do their own thing, they became basically basically became a commodity. They became a hot thing. They became the one thing people wanted to see more than even WWE. It's all because WWE gave them that exposure, to promote Barely Legal. And now you're seeing that here very similarly with TNA. TNA is getting this opportunity through NXT to get exposure for their talents that many people may not know is, part of the company. And I like that. I really do. And in exchange, a lot of the talents like a Charlie Dempsey, and Izzy Dame, a Tatum Paxley, you name it, they get more opportunities to develop themselves, outside of WWE, when it comes to working with TNA, like we saw on last night's Impact with Dempsey and Dame, like we're going to see next week on Impact with that 6-man tag, like we're going to see on NXT, and so on. It's a win-win. But do I see in the end that it's more beneficial to WWE than TNA? Talent-wise, from a contractual standpoint, yeah, it will be more beneficial. But I don't think under this new regime, it's going to be as bad as you think it is. Yes, some of the business practices, in many people's opinions, like JD, might be very identical, if not the same as the old, basically the same, I should say, as they were under the old regime. That's what I'm trying to say. But I don't see it being practiced in a similar manner. Like, it still might be the same, but I don't see it being practiced in a similar manner. I see it more equaled, if you know what I mean. Because again, remember, Triple H wanted to work with other promotions, even when Vince was running things, and Vince didn't let him. Now he's got that opportunity. And I think he wants to give back and not take away like Vince would. But to me, it's a win-win. And that's all I can say. Again, do I think it's going to last forever? No. But I think it's going to benefit both in the long run. Again, like I said, it's going to benefit TNA and open up, the eyes of any unknown talent that might want to have a platform outside of WWE and AEW to, come and perform on in North America. It opens up the door for them to, sign that talent, sign those kind of talents, to contracts. The same with, and very similar with WWE. It opens the door for them to potentially sign officially to the company the likes of a Jordan Grace, the likes, of a, of an Eddie Edwards, of a Moose, of an Alicia Edwards, of a Marsha Slamovich, of a Josh Alexander, and so on, the Rascals. It gives them the opportunity to do that, because what it does is it allows them to look at the talents they know that maybe within the next year or so will be part of the company and help become the future of the company in the long run. And that's just my opinion. That's just my opinion on it. You can agree with it or not, but that's just how I feel it's gonna. That's just how I feel it's gonna go about, and for the foreseeable future. It's late while and by the way, it is late while I'm doing this. It is about. Let me see what the time is. If I can, get this to show me the time. And I got like I said, I got my phone right here with a security camera. It's about 11:30 p.m. Pacific. But anyway, I think it's going to be beneficial. I really do. I think everybody's going to be a winner out of this. And I think, if you feel, in my opinion, I think if you feel otherwise and everything, that's fine. That's fine. But I think, in the end, even though it won't last forever, I think it's going to be, something that's a win-win for everybody. Everybody gets something in return. Impact gets more exposure and thus allows all those talents that may not want to go to WWE or AEW just yet to come over to TNA and test the waters there for a while. Well, it opens the door, like I said, for WWE to potentially sign a lot of those established TNA talents, like a Joe Henry, like a Jordan Grace, like a two-thirds of the Rascals, like a Moose, like an Eddie and Alicia Edwards, like a Josh Alexander, to potential contracts in the future, and maybe even give the likes of the Hardys one more shot because of their association with TNA, and the same with the Nemeth brothers, Nick and Ryan. So again, it's a win-win, and that's just all I can say about it. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys. How do you feel about this partnership with TNA and WWE? Do you think it's going to benefit everybody in the end once the partnership is over? Or do you think JD has a point that maybe WWE is just using them because, because of what he's talked about with the Stephanie Vaquer situation and how, according to reports, if you believe them, she conducted business on her way out from CMLL and New Japan after AEW New Japan Forbidden Door? And that maybe and do you agree with JD? Do you think maybe they didn't know about or didn't know or have any interest in Vancouver prior to Forbidden Door, but now only interested in her because hey, it's a talent we can take away from Tony and everything and so on? Or do you think maybe there's more to why she signed? Do you think maybe somebody's creative control, allowed that to happen? Or do you think maybe it's because her boyfriend, because there are supporters in AEW for her boyfriend that tried to, hurt her physically? Let me know. Comment down below. Click on the links, to my Teespring store and my other places where you can find my content in the description. And I will talk to y'all later. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are. And I am out.